Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome once again to another session of daily learning under lockdown inspiration. Thank you all for joining us here this morning. I see people are logging on as we're speaking. So as you log on, just give us your greetings, give us your wish. Let us know how you're feeling today. I'd love to welcome you personally. Norman Stain, I noticed, Norman, that Norman Stain, I noticed that you commented, but you're not on the right chat. So just go to the right chat, the right room, Tuesday, 7th of July. Thank you. Hilly Lipworth, I see your comment, Hilly. Yes, we'll dedicate our learning. Thank you for the names. We'll learn in merit of a refuah shalema for Devara bat Elka and Shlomo ben Chana. May they have an immediate refuah shalema. Thank you for that. Oh, and now I see Michael Stain. Hold on. Michael Stain and Norman Stain, are you both on the right video? It seems like you're commenting on a previous session. That's my Norman. Let's just see this. Hold on. No, Norman and Michael, you're on Monday the 6th of July. Go out of the Monday session and go to the top video on the... there we go. Michael now's coming through onto the right one, Tuesday, 7th of July. I see that now. Thank you very much. Okay, Norman, come join us here in the right room, Tuesday, 7th of July. Good morning, everyone. I see you're logging on now. So fantastic. I'm going to welcome you all here. Those of you that have shared your comments, let me welcome you. Good morning, Tracy Mindel. Thank you. Anne Hack, Lipworth. Thank you. Helen Feinstein, Boker Tov. Thank you. Lionel Rubin. I appreciate your feedback there. Bernice Krause, Michael Stain. Thank you. And Norman, I know Norman's with us. He's going to join us just now. And on YouTube, we have Fager Sager, Dennis Solomons. Thank you for your feedback there. Ian Clemenson. Yes, very interesting and very brave. I agree. Shelley Smith, Murad Dworkin. Good morning. Sherilyn Diamond. Thank you. David Ginsburg on Facebook and Anand Orkin. Thank you all for your feedback for last night's program. We had a fantastic program on Zoom last night. If you haven't yet seen it, you're more than welcome to log into the Sidlam Shul Facebook page. You'll see it there. Hi, Melissa Ganendi. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. Good. We're just going to give it one more minute just to make sure everyone's online with us. If you haven't yet commented or shared your greetings, please do so. We'd love to hear from you and know that you're with us online, learning together. Hi, Marlene Scher. Good morning. Manfred Kalmek. Good morning. Linda and Hami Drew. Boker Tov. Okay, good. Yesterday we started chatting about Pinchas and Pinchas's zealous act of killing Zimri and Cosby. Hi, Shamaine. Good morning. Pinchas's zealous act of killing Zimri and Cosby. And actually, one of our viewers who listened to this messaged me later on in the afternoon about this. But before I get onto that, I want to welcome Stephen Herr, and we'll learn in memory of your mother, Esther Bat Moshe. I also want to dedicate today's learning in merit of the Refuah Shalema to Rafael Shmuel ben Itamira, as well as Liron ben Sarit. May they have a Refuah Shalema and a speedy recovery. So what was the message I got yesterday from one of our viewers who I think viewed this later on, because we do have viewers who watch these videos and these broadcasts later on in the day, which is fantastic. That's why these recordings are there. So please do take benefit of it and the opportunity of watching this if you miss it one day. And the comment was about Pinchas's reward. So yesterday we focused, hi Ingrid, thank you for joining us on YouTube today. Yesterday we focused on the reward of Pinchas. What did Pinchas get as a result of his zealous act? He was blessed with priesthood, with kahuna. That was a blessing that Pinchas received. But it's more than just priesthood. The wording is bristi shalom. He got the covenant of peace. Briti shalom. He got the covenant of peace. That's an interesting reward. We know that kahuna, we spoke yesterday about how priesthood and kahuna represents kindness and chesed, and kohanim have to have the attribute of kindness. But what does this mean? It's briti shalom, that Pinchas got the blessing and the covenant of peace. Why was that the reward that he was deserving of after his zealous act? So what is peace? And I mentioned this in my title. I'm sure you saw that as you came in today. I mentioned this in my title. What is peace? Peace is bridge the gap. Bridging the gap between two different worlds. That's what peace is about. You know, the fact that Aaron had the ability of going and bringing couples together. He had the ability of ohev shalom v'rodef shalom. Right? That was the attribute of Aaron. Is that he was able to bring together different parts, different pieces together. That's what shalom is about. Shalom is bridging the gap. Now, this is exactly what Pinchas had to do at that moment of his zealous act in killing Zimri and Cosby. You see, we know that killing is an act of gevura. It's an act of strictness, an act of discipline. To take a spear and to kill Zimri and Cosby, that was an act of gevura. But the rabbis actually tell us that that wasn't the motivation of Pinchas. Good morning, Simeon. That wasn't the motivation of Pinchas. You see, Pinchas was blessed to be a kohen. Pinchas was blessed to follow in the traditions of Aaron a kohen. Good morning, Arlene. Pinchas actually was motivated by chesed, the commentaries tell us. Kindness, chesed. Why? Because he thought about the well-being of the community. He thought about the well-being of the community. And because he thought about the well-being of the community and he had chesed, kindness towards the well-being of the community, he therefore took a spear in his hand to discipline Zimri and Cosby. Take, for example, parents. Parents who are educating their children, right? What's the motivation? What's the motivation of one who disciplines their children? What's the motivation of its teacher or principal who disciplines a student? What's the motivation? Superficially, we would say that when it comes to punishment or rebuke, then the motivation is discipline and strength. So we would say that discipline is what motivates punishment. But it's not the case. Or it shouldn't be the case. What motivates discipline or punishment is actually chesed and kindness. That should be the underlying motive and emotion of a parent and of an educator. The reason why I'm educating you, the reason why I'm teaching you, the reason why I'm bringing you up in my home, in my family, is because I love you and I care for you and I have chesed and kindness towards you. But sometimes in order to implement that chesed, I need to be able to know how to act upon discipline too and punishment. And so therefore, the reason why I'm punishing you is not because I want to discipline you or not because I want to be harsh to you or not because I want to be strict to you. It's because I love you. That's the bottom line, chesed. And sometimes chesed features through discipline. Let me just take a break for a moment to welcome all those who are logging on. We've got over 35 to 40 viewers on Facebook and YouTube this morning. Good morning, Stephanie Odang. Nice to have you with us. If anybody else is logging on at this point in time, please put it into the comments. And I'd love to address it personally. So at that moment, Pinchas did the act of shalom. What's the act of shalom? Is to bring together two elements that could be opposing and to merge the two and to bring peace between the two. So he took chesed and gevura, he took strictness and kindness and he merged it. That's really what has to happen at home too. Hi, Avril Warpert, good morning. At home, we talk about shalom bayit. Shalom bayit. But maybe we need to analyze that. Just like Pinchas was blessed with shalom. Why? Because he bridged the gap between chesed and gevura, kindness and strictness. Maybe our homes need to implement that too. How do we implement our homes? Have a fair balance of both. In our homes, we need to have a balance of chesed, of kindness, together with strictness. And that applies to our children, the way we educate children. It also applies towards our own standards. How do we set the standards, the values, the principles of our home? We have to have a balance of chesed and gevura. You can't only be chesed and you can't only be gevura. You can't only be kindness, you can't only be strictness. Good morning, Robert Levy. You have to have a balance of both. In fact, what happened to Pinchas afterwards? Pinchas afterwards, we know, someone pointed this out. I think Stephen Herr mentioned this again on YouTube this morning, that Pinchas becomes Eliyahu. As our sages tell us, Pinchas ze Eliyahu. That Pinchas becomes Elijah the prophet. Good morning, Selwyn Triga, Shalom Triga on YouTube. Good morning, Felicia Jenks on Facebook, as well as Gary Sachs. Nice to have you with us. Thanks for joining us here. What happened to Pinchas? Pinchas ze Eliyahu, he became Elijah. Why is that? Because the advantage of a malach is spiritual. A human is physical. It's true that we have a neshama inside of us, but what dictates, what governs our operational functioning? We function as physical human beings. That's who we are. Our bodies, our physical presence takes control of our beings. Obviously, we have to guide it and inspire it by the neshama, by the soul. But ultimately, our body is here. We're physical. Pinchas became an angel because he became Eliyahu. Why? Because he's a man of peace that brings together opposites. That's what a kohen does. He brings together opposites. He brings together chesed and gevura, kindness and strictness. Aaron, a kohen, brought together husbands and wives. And so Pinchas, who follows in that character trait, becomes a malach. Because by becoming a malach, he now merges the gap, bridges the gap between the physical and the spiritual. And now this physical human being, Pinchas, becomes the spiritual malach, the spiritual angel, which is Eliyahu Hanavi. Good morning, Dawn Olovitz. Nice to have you with us online. Thank you. Anybody else that's logging on, please let us know you're here. We'd love to welcome you personally. Now, not all of us can turn malachim. Not all of us can turn into angels. We don't turn into angels. But we can learn lessons from here. We can learn lessons on what the ideal character trait looks like. We can learn lessons of what we should be aiming and striving for in our lives. You know, some people are naturally kind or generous. And some people are naturally disciplined, more rigid, more strict. And what Pinchas teaches us is that it's important as shalom, of peace, to merge and bridge the gap between the two. So one who is generally naturally more kind and more generous should work on implementing the character trait of discipline. You have to have discipline. You can't only be kind and generous in your life. You have to have discipline. So work on finding elements within your day-to-day, within your character traits, to implement the attribute of discipline. And there are those who are governed naturally by discipline. They're more strict and more disciplined. They have to work hard on implementing kindness and chesed into their relationships, into their friendships, into their home. And the moment we do that and we take ourselves out of our comfort zone to do something different, that's called shalom. That's called shalom bayit. That's called peace in the home, because we're managing to bring different particles, different aspects, different emotions, and combining it together. And the same can be said as well for physical and spiritual. Some people are naturally more physical. Most people are naturally more physical, more mundane. And we got to work hard on finding moments of angelic moments, so to speak, spiritual moments, moments of inspiration. Like now, getting together on a 10:30 morning daily learning program. Thank you for joining us. If you're just logging on or you've been on Facebook, can I ask you to like our video and share the Facebook video so that others can also benefit at the same time? So most people are physical by nature, and we just have to strive to bring in and implement more ruchaniyut, the angelic moments, the Liyanovi moments in our lives. And this is why we go to a Brit Milah, circumcision, or a wedding. Those moments are extremely inspirational and uplifting. A wedding, a bar mitzvah, a simcha. Those are angelic moments. We celebrate Torah. We celebrate the spiritual dynamism of Torah. Some people are naturally spiritual. Believe it or not, there are some people out there who are naturally spiritual. And they need to complement themselves with physicality too. They need to be more conscious and more aware of the world around them, to be able to interact and inspire the world around them. And if you manage to blend the two and to bridge the gap, then you know you've reached shalom. You've reached complete peace and tranquility, and harmony is the word. Harmony between these different aspects. We're living at this time through difficult, challenging times. And sometimes it's hard to see the good. It's hard to see the bigger picture. It's hard to see what the goal is. And one thing we are taught is that God is good. God is good. Even though sometimes it doesn't look so good, we still believe with utmost faith and trust and emunah that things are good. The Hebrew word for good is tov. Now, who among us can define what good looks like? What you think is good may not be good in my eyes. And what I think is good may not be in your eyes. So what's good? I see Shalom Trigger writes here, Shalom means complete, for peace, inner peace, clarity to make judgments. Right, Shalom means complete. It's true. Shalom does mean complete. Because when you have two aspects coming together, it creates completeness. I'm going to come back to my idea of Tov in just a moment. I see comments are coming through. So we'll continue with that theme in just a moment. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Tracy Mindel, how is it that Pinchas got such an honor, but yet he got away with killing 2 people in the parsha? but he was condoned by Torah law. But what he did saved so many lives. No, exactly. So, Tracy, you've answered your own question. He killed 2 people, but it was at a moment of crisis. And by killing these 2 people, he was being kind to the rest of the community. And that's what we mentioned earlier, that Pinchas had a balance of chesed and kindness, which he was worried so much by the community, and he acted in a way of discipline. Let's continue with my theme of Tov. Tov means good. But what is Tov? What is good? Who knows what good is? What you think is good is not so good for me. And what I think is good is not so good for you. So who decides? Ultimately, God is the objective definition of good. He knows what's good. And that's why when it comes to davening time, and although we come with our shopping lists, we have itemized lists of what we're asking for. That makes sense. That's what davening is about. Tefillah. It's about asking. But one thing we realize is that we don't really know what's good for us. We don't really know. We ask Hashem, you are the good one. You know what's good for me. And therefore, bless me. Bless me for what I need. That's what good is. And sometimes the situation doesn't look so good. Sometimes it seems challenging and difficult. And now there are families with people who are ill. There are families who have lost loved ones during this time. And it's very, very difficult at this point in time to see God being good, that God is Tov. And many of us, maybe the skeptic within us, is asking the question, is this good? How is this good? How is this possibly good? And one thing we have to keep on reminding ourselves over and over is that God's world is a lot more complex than our world. Our world is so straightforward. You're either here or you're there. It's either good or it's bad. In God's world, it's a lot more complicated than that. In God's world, it can be shalom. In fact, one of the names of Hashem is shalom. It's one of God's names. And shalom means bridging the gap between opposites. We spoke about the gap between chesed and gevura, kindness and strictness. We spoke about the gap between spiritual and physical. And here's the gap between what looks bad and what looks good. In God's world, something can look bad and devastating, at the same time be good. That's how God does it. God is above both. He is transcendent. And therefore, opposites are not contradictory in God's world. In God's world, it can be both. And that's why we've got the responsibility. Excellent. So Lionel Rubin writes there, let me just address Lionel's comment on YouTube. Rabbi, I was taught that in the end, it'll be good. And if it's not good, then it's not the end. So I want to tell you, Lionel, that your comment is very much based on the human perspective. The human perspective is, in the end, it'll be good. And if it's not good, then it's not the end. That's correct in the human perspective. But in God's perspective, right now it's good. It's hard for us to accept that. It's hard for us to understand that. But the more we talk about it, the more we discuss it, the more we debate it, the more we're going to implement it in our own lives. So Lionel, right now it's good. It may not be the end, but right now it's good. That's our job. Our job as people of shalom, people of peace, is to try and bridge the gap between the opposites. Try and merge the two things that look opposite to one another. So if tragedy or challenges, should I say, looks bleak and difficult and hard and gray, we have been taught to look for the silver lining. Look for the good, as hard as it is. You know, the Medrash points out that the word tet also stands for tit, tet yud tet, which means clay. It means clay, tit. They use that in building, right? That represents physicality, gashmiut, that which covers over. And tov represents the good. So we're going to look through the tit and find the tov. Look through the crass physical, mundane challenges and try and find the tov, the good in that too. We all know the story, the famous story of the Talmud, told about Nachum Ish Gamzu. Nachum was a man in the Talmud who was known as a man who walked around all day saying, Gamzu Latova. This is also for the good. Meaning he would look at a challenging situation. He would not see it as a conflict or contradiction to God being good. He would say, Lionel, right now it's good, even though it looks challenging. Gam Zulatova. And the famous story is told that the Jewish community wanted to take a gift to deliver it to the Roman emperor in Rome. And Nachum was chosen to be that representative who was going to travel with a box load of jewels and gems and take it. He would take it to the Roman emperor. And on the way, he stopped by a village, by a town. He stayed in the inn that night. And while he was sleeping, the innkeeper walks in and exchanges the box of jewels and gems and puts there earth, tit, clay, sticks and stones are put inside to Nachum Ish Gamzu. Nachum Ish Gamzu doesn't know what to do. In the morning, he wakes up and this box is extremely heavy. He looks inside. He sees his box has now become earth, sticks and stones. He says, Gamzu Latova. It's also supposed to be for the good, obviously. So he takes his bag with him and he travels to Rome. He gets to Rome and he shows the emperor what he has. And the emperor has an absolute fit. What are you doing, making a joke out of me? Bringing me earth and sticks and stones. What have you done? And Nachum says, I don't know. Gamzu Latova. It's also for the good. And quite interestingly, Eliyahu appears. Eliyahu Novi. We spoke about him now, right? With Pinchas. Eliyahu Novi appears and he says, and he's actually dressed as a Roman so nobody can recognize him. And he says to Nachum, maybe God is sending you this earth with the sticks and stones from Avraham Avinu's days. We know that Avraham Avinu had to save Lot against the Stomite kings. Avraham had no weapons to fight a war. What was he going to do? So Avraham takes the earth from the ground and throws the earth towards the soldiers, and miraculously it changed into spears, and he won the battle as a result. So Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah, says to Nachum, who's standing there in the palace, he says, the earth you have in that box is from Avraham Avinu. And Nachum tries his luck. He says to the king, to the emperor, My Highness, Your Highness, this is special earth, special sticks and stones. It turns into spears. And at that point in time, the Talmud says that the Romans were trying to conquer territory, but they couldn't defeat their enemy. So they took this box from Nachum and they used the earth and they threw the earth and it turned into arrows and spears and it defeated their enemy. And the emperor couldn't thank Nachum more. And so he says to him, I want to give you now a box of jewels and gems to take back. And he sets out for his journey back. And on the way, he stops at the inn. And there the innkeeper says, how did you do this? What did you do? And he says, well, I told him that it's the earth of Avraham Avinu. And it worked as spears and swords. And so the innkeeper did the same. He tried to take a box load of earth to the Roman emperor, but it didn't succeed. He didn't manage there. That didn't work at all. And in fact, he was killed as a result for embarrassing the Roman emperor. So this is a story where we see Nachum Ish Gamzu never saw a situation being black or white. He often said, Shalom. It's peace. We're going to bridge the gap. It may look challenging, but it's actually good. I see Shalom Trigger writes, Havaya and Elokim. That's right. Two names of Hashem are both Chesed and Gevurah mixed together in different proportions. Right. So both of them have a little bit of the other in them. That's the ultimate purpose of Shalom, of peace. And that's why Pinchas was blessed with Shalom. He mixed together kindness and strictness. He was transformed to an angel. So he had physical and spiritual coming together. We're living in times that are challenging. Somehow we've got to dig a little deeper and try and expose the good that's there, the spiritual that's there, the kedusha that lies beneath the challenge, to try and find the tov, the good, behind the tit, behind the clay, behind the rigid, behind the difficult, behind the challenging. So that's been the program for today. I hope you've been watching and enjoying. If you have any questions, feel free to, I see Shalom Triggers posting in the chat. If you have any questions, put it into the Facebook chat or the YouTube chat. I'd be happy to address your questions either today or we'll be back tomorrow again. Tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube live. And I hope you'll join us there. It's good to have you all here. Please, God, we should merit to a day and a time of goodness and kindness, a day of shalom, of peace, of bridging the gaps and finding total harmony within our families, within our communities, and within our world. Thank you all for being here. A wonderful day ahead. Keep safe, keep sane, and keep spiritual.